Both male and female leads are clean, sweet pets are relaxed, and love comes after marriage. One is a renowned pharmacist in the southern city, and the other is the terrifying CEO of the Yen King in the northern city. Shen An had been looking for his master for many years, and Yushi had been looking for Shen An for many years. When Shen An first met Yushi, he slapped him, and many years later when they reunited, he slapped him twice. The enraged man caught Shen An and made her transform into Mrs. Yu. In order to find the secret of his master leaving without saying goodbye, Shen An is willing to become Mrs. Yu. After a year of engagement, Shen An hid his pregnant belly and left alone, leaving Yu frantically searching every inch of the land. Brother Xiao, my sister-in-law has run away with her cub. Brother Xiao, your child has peed again, sobbing. Brother Xiao, we should always be happy together with our sister-in-law. This is the story of two lonely and proud people healing each other. Guests are welcome to come in and take a look. QQ group 645948151 can chat. Keywords of the novel. After being slapped by the boss, the sister-in-law ran away with the cub without a pop-up window. After being slapped by the boss, the sister-in-law ran away with the cub. Download the complete text. After being slapped by the boss, the sister-in-law ran away with the cub. Read the latest chapter. Chapter 1. The King of Hell meets a little demon. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. The King of Hell meets a little demon in the northern city. The cold winter is chilly, and the first snow is falling profusely at that time. The opening ceremony was being held in the Sue's manor, which was peaceful and warm like spring, with gentle music playing in the hall. But the original peace was soon overshadowed by the roar of the truck, and a group of people in black got off the car, with silver-white masks on their faces, carrying the chill outside and breaking through the door. No one is allowed to move. The group of guests dressed elegantly heard this shout, their faces turned pale, and the originally filled atmosphere of joy disappeared. How could they still carry guns and sticks during the grand opening ceremony of the Su family? I saw this group of people in black wearing silver masks, all of whom were strong men over 1.8 meters tall at a glance, with cold faces blocking all exits. Not even a fly could fly out. Shen An, who was hiding in the crowd, glanced at this imposing figure and his eyebrows and eyes twitched. Shouldn't he be here to catch her? He only came to the North City a few days ago and discovered it. It's really interesting. Shen An sneered with a playful smile, and calmly stroked the blue agate ring on his index finger with his right hand. It was crystal clear and hidden with a hint of strangeness. He glanced at the black-clothed people outside who were being investigated one by one, and it seemed that he wouldn't want to walk out well tonight. Shen An paused for a moment, then slowly turned around and left, wearing a tassel black long dress hidden in the corner of the second floor of the conference hall. It has been over 30 minutes now, and the Yohua man, who only obeys Brother Yen, has not yet found the legendary hacker L. How could the rich and foolish people in front of us be L who appear and disappear on the black web? My eyes are shining with a clear and foolish light, but without Brother Chi's command, they cannot easily let anyone go. What if this L is so foolish and let go? The atmosphere in the conference hall remained deadlocked, causing the guests to be angry but hesitant to speak. They could only patiently wait with a small drink. The king, who was unable to leave for a long time, finally had a bad temper and picked up the wine glass in his hand, smashing it at the feet of the Yohua person led by him. Scarlet liquid spilled on the pure wool carpet, and shattered glass shards scattered everywhere. What is it? It's blocking my way. Do you know who I am? The quiet lobby echoed with Mr. Wang's unrestrained words, but no one dared to respond. The silence was terrifying. Those who have been in the North City for a long time know who these black-clad people wearing silver masks and with fire patterns on their forearms worked for. No one dares to provoke that person, and this newly rising nouveau riche should not see the sun of tomorrow. They are all people in the upper-class circle, and there are many of them who are not interested. Everyone stands there without changing their faces, silently lamenting for him in their hearts. The answer to him was the sound of buckle buckle footsteps, neither tight nor slow, from far to near, even with a bit of arrogant and unrestrained. It's a metaphor. He actually showed up. Everyone was whispering, who didn't know how cold and ruthless the only grandson of the Yu family was, and the title of King of Hell was not given in vain. Wherever he appears, there is no peace, and the tense atmosphere in the hall becomes even more suppressed. Yu threw away his cigarette butt, with a hint of tobacco lingering around his fingertips and a hint of coldness in his mouth. He wore a black custom-made suit that accentuated the tall figure of the man from top to bottom, with a cold night-like black in his eyes, and no excess emotions could be seen. Throw it out. Yu was too lazy to talk to such a person, not even giving a glance to the already bound Mr. Wang. After all, his eyes would get dirty when he looked at dirty things. Did Elle run away again? He doesn't believe it. The narrow and long Danfeng's eyes casually glanced at the second floor of the conference hall, which was the lounge for senior members, and they didn't dare to cover up. The leader of the Yohua people has been following Yu Gui for many years, and with just a glance from Brother Gui, they can understand. With the order of Brother Qi, the Yohua man went upstairs to search. His actions were quick and rough. Regardless of whether he was a real estate tycoon or a nouveau riche, daring to block Brother Qi's search was equivalent to seeking death. Report to Brother Xiao, except for the Su family's tightly closed door, everything else has been searched. No one. Yu Qi, sitting on the handmade leather sofa, felt a deeper chill in his eyes when he heard these words. His legs, which were originally overlapping, slowly stood up. Is it difficult for living people to be able to fly out with wings? He wants to personally see what kind of show is waiting for him upstairs. The reason why the Yohua people dare not kick the door of the Su family is twofold. Firstly, the Su family is the host today. Secondly, the eldest lady of the Su family is still the fiancée of Brother Xia, or it would be better for Brother Xia to act on his own. The mighty black team gathered in front of the Su family's lounge, and the word etiquette that Ying didn't understand the most in his life was that someone who could make him polite had not yet been born. Bang. With just one punch, Yishi smashed the door lock askew, his veins bulging, and he stormed into the lounge with a hint of anger. Looking around the room, there was no one around. The messy blanket on the bed was wrapped in a ball, and Sun Yanjin's eyes were nestled in the middle of the blanket, revealing her foggy eyes. There was nothing left on her body, and several bright red scratches were imprinted on her snow-white skin. Yu knew at a glance that she had contracted something inappropriate, and there was a hint of malice in her eyes. This Elle had some tricks, but he underestimated it. Dong! A loud noise came from outside the French window. The secret way of Yu Fan was not good, and the Yohua people followed him. No one was outside to guard, which made a hole for him. Follow me. A few stiff words spewed out from Yu's thin lips, with a hint of restraint before the storm. Looking through the French window, a thin figure quickly disappears into Yu Fan's sight. Is this the hacker Elle he is looking for? Surprisingly, it's a little kid. Do you still know how to lure tigers away from the mountains? There are too many mysteries entwined in his heart, and Yu only feels a faint pain in his temples. What does this hacker Elle really know? What is her connection with Anan? Master, why haven't you found any trace for so many years? Yu Qi felt restless and instinctively lit a cigarette. The swirling smoke gently swirled around Yu Qi's face, and the familiar cigarette scent replaced Yu Qi's thoughts. In the blink of an eye, Sun Yanjin had already started to break free from the bed quilt, and painful moans echoed in the room. Jean Tan, drag her to Yu's hospital for me. The leader of the Yohua people withdrew their steps to find Elle, turned back, and looked at Sun Yanjin's disheveled appearance on the bed. Their eyes dimmed slightly, and they picked him up and took him away. Brother Xiao, this is my dereliction of duty. I will come to apologize later. After speaking, Jean Tan, along with the blanket, wrapped Sun Yanjin away, afraid that Sun Yanjin would say something inappropriate and displease Brother Wei, which would be a capital offense. Yu doesn't want to take a closer look at this legendary fiancé AE. What does it matter to him that the old man found a marriage partner? But the footsteps that were supposed to leave stopped when they saw the tassel black dress, and Yu Chi's mouth couldn't help but curl up, but his smile didn't reach the bottom of his eyes. Send all the monitoring data of Su's manner to my email within 10 minutes. Yu Chi doesn't care what He Qing Fan is doing at this moment. Who said he was caught by his father while picking up girls and was chased and beaten in the company? It was Yu Chi who came out to save him. Xiao. What kind of life is there to torture me with? He Qing Fan, who was far away in the gentle countryside, felt the coldness of his bedding. He was the grand young master of the He family, and he was willing to be so manipulated. It seems that you still can't do without me. What a nuisance. With saved manuscripts, feel free to enter the pit with confidence. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. 002 10,000 Ice Cream. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2002 10,000 Ice Cream. Oh, hello, the pain is killing me. Shen An's horse grin fell from the landing window. He hasn't worked hard for a long time. His ability is not as good as before. Shen An didn't dare to stay, patted the ash on his buttocks, and then ran towards the path with pain in his heart. It's not physical pain, it's heartache. That black tassel dress cost her millions of dollars to get from the auction, but now it's lying on the floor of the Su family's lounge, and when she goes back, her brother will say she's a loser. Woo my money. But now I'm also wearing a branded sports suit, so I'm losing less. I'm just a bit sorry for that Miss Su from the Su family. She stole the clothes and even put colorless and odorless aromatherapy on her, which was enough to make her lose her mind. Oh, who told me to come too hastily? I only have this newly developed product in my pocket. I'm sorry. It was purely a last resort, otherwise it would have been me who couldn't escape. I believe you will be taken to the hospital soon. Shen An silently prayed for Sun Yanjin in his heart for 3 seconds, but it was only 3 seconds, and more often than not, he was lamenting the $1 million ocean. People who know Shen An know that he is abnormal and cute, ruthless, and has eaten too much. It's so adorable. A little devil, Yu family's great demon king, that's all. Shen An, who had successfully escaped, lay on the large bed arranged by his elder brother in the presidential suite, with his legs crossed and swaying with a hint of comfort. It is said that the Yen prince of the Yu family is difficult to deal with, and he was also defeated by my subordinates. Shen An proudly flipped over, his left hand slightly scratched his skin, dragging his delicate chin, and his right hand holding a phone to report his brother's safety. Jiang Lijin, they all said there's nothing to worry about, you can sleep peacefully. Anin. Don't be fooling around next time, this Yu family is not easy to deal with. Jiang Lijin, who was far away in the southern city, rubbed her tired eyebrows, and her heart finally fell upon hearing Shen An's familiar and clear voice. I'm not fooling around, I have a sense of propriety. Jiang Lijin knew that Shen An was no longer the little girl chasing after him for candy. Since his master left without saying goodbye, they have all changed. Looking at the beautiful moonlight outside the window, Jiang Lijin remained silent for a long time. The scattered cigarette butts lying next to him in the ashtray exposed his melancholy. Why did the master leave without saying goodbye? This is the knot between him and Shen An. He knew it was time to take action. I will come over in a few days after I have arranged everything for the southern side. I know, I'll go downstairs and buy an ice cream. Goodbye. Jiang Lijin, who was hung up before finishing her arrangements, was not angry. Instead, she spoiled her and shook her head. Her love for ice cream remained unchanged. After all, he is a child, favored. Shen An only fools around like this in front of Jiang Lijin. Besides his master, the closest person is him. Since I have a memory, Shen An has loved to follow Jiang Lijin to catch birds on the mountains and fish in the river. Every day, he was caught by his master to practice martial arts. Looking back on his childhood, he was actually quite happy. Although they are orphans. Shen An restrained his expression, retrieved his long-forgotten memories, put on a camel-colored wool coat, and stepped on his white plush slippers before going out to search for ice cream. When I was a child, I wanted to eat ice cream whenever I was unhappy, but now I have developed a habit. The ground is already covered with a layer of white snow, soft and moist when stepped on, with a slight chill. There were no pedestrians on the road, and it was empty. Shen An hugged her hands tightly and ran to the nearby convenience store. Hey hee sweet, satisfied, Shen An held the vanilla-flavored ice cream and licked it like a kitten, slowly savoring it, as if even tasting the taste of snowflakes. Perhaps due to being too invested, Shen An did not notice anyone passing by. Ah! Shen An was suddenly hit, and a huge object fell from his shoulder, causing the ice cream to fall to the ground. Hello. Uncle. Pay me for the ice cream. Looking at the vanilla ice cream on the ground that had merged with the snow, Shen An had the urge to beat this person up, not joking. Yu, who was called Uncle by Shen An, felt that the scent on this woman was very fragrant, reminiscent of the vanilla scent in his memory. He was very familiar with it, and his body involuntarily leaned towards her. My body is very hot and dry, and of course, Yushi, who has lived for 30 years, knows why. He needs an antidote now. In order to contain the fire inside his body, he had been blowing a cold wind outside for a long time, but it still didn't work. Shut up, help me in, I'll buy you 10,000 ice creams. Yu gritted his back teeth tightly, with crimson eyes, trying to restrain his body's primitive impulses. I really want to take care of her. Facing Yu's fierce gaze, Shen An's right eyelids twitched and the corner of his mouth couldn't help but twitch. Good guy, is this what the old saying goes? Can't you escape the first day of junior high school and the 15th day? How did you meet the Yen prince of the Yu family here? It seems that the potion I made is good. Shen An stared at Yu's face with a smile on his face. He looked pretty good, just like in the photo, never missed. Is it really 10,000? Vanilla flavored. Can it be monetized? This condition may not be tempting for others, but it is different for Shen An. 10,000 vanilla flavored ice creams, it's not appropriate to save $50,000. Who is she? She's a financial fanatic, I always keep my word. Yu Xiong patiently stared at Shen An with his head down, and for an instant, his mind flickered. His eyebrows and eyes seemed familiar, as if he had seen them somewhere before. Deal. Shen An had investigated Yu Fan, a golden bachelor, before coming to Beijing, and heard that he was frigid. Isn't it just dragging him to the hotel to rest? For 10,000 vanilla-flavored ice creams, just make do and help him in. At this moment, Yu Qi was already sweating profusely, his palms sweating profusely, panting heavily, his face stained with crimson, and his original evil energy becoming even more unrestrained. Shen An had no choice but to hold Yu Qi's arms with both hands, placing them around his neck and moving on the snow like a sack. It's really heavy. A long string of heavy footprints were left on the white snow, but soon disappeared into the snowflakes. The snow is getting heavier and heavier. After finally dragging Yu Qi's heavy body to the hotel lobby, the cargo fainted directly. Uncle. It's time to settle the bill. Shen An patted Yu Qi's face with force, and a scorching temperature came from his palm. It seems that this potion has been developed without any problems and is quite effective. The answer to her was Yu's increasingly tight hand, which couldn't be pulled apart. Miss Shen, may I trouble you to take Mr. Yu to room 8888? I'm the only one here, and I can't leave. The front desk looked at Shen An with a pleading expression. These are all people living in the presidential suite, they dare not provoke. Shen An, who had originally intended to refuse, looked at the earnest gaze of the receptionist and felt a little impatient. Room card. Shen An gritted his teeth and compromised. I can't even get compensation for the ice cream, can I? Thank you, Miss Shen. Thank you. The front desk quickly handed over the room card, as if it was for a hot potato. Can't it be? I have never seen the CEO approach any woman before, and Miss Shen in front of me must be very special. The task of helping the CEO up is sure to be completed perfectly. Thinking about the scene before where a woman was tied up and thrown out as soon as she approached the CEO, the front desk quietly stepped back. No, you go inside. Shen An pinched Yuqi, who had no response, opened the door and threw Yuqi in. This person is too heavy and can only rely on being dumped. However, at that moment, Yuqi suddenly opened his eyes, carrying Gu Yahua in the clear and bright light. His iron arm directly pulled Shen An, who had not yet reacted, and dragged her into the room. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. 003 Meat Preparation. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3003 Meat Preparation. Yu, who has never been close to women, is very abnormal tonight. For example, now he doesn't know why he is tightly clinging to the woman he met by chance behind the door. Shen An was imprisoned by Yu's iron arm. Even though she bit and kicked with her teeth, she couldn't move at all. You bastard. Ungrateful. An animal with lower body thinking. She can't move her body, but her mouth can move. Shen An has never lost her lip service. Yu didn't know what he had fallen for, why he was obsessed with the scent on the woman in front of him. It's very fragrant and has a magical power. Name. Yu felt that his patience had reached its limit, and this woman kept moving around, teasing his heartstrings. Never before, this woman's damn charm. What the hell do you want my name for? Let go of me. Damn it. Shen An ignored his thick and vigorous arm and bit it down, using all his strength until a bloody smell came from his mouth. However, Yuqi did not let out a painful sound. Lift your head up. With a low voice and a hint of seduction, Yuqi forcefully supported Shen An's chin, forcing him to face Yuqi's scorching black eyes. Shen An was not afraid of him either. Her bright apricot eyes glared angrily at Yuqi, and there was a hint of mist hanging from her curled eyelashes, but she remained silent. If it weren't for his high position and power, I would really want to castrate him and feed him to the pigs. Through the light, Yuqi saw Shen An's face clearly, with a clean slapped face and relaxed eyebrows and eyes, without the worldly charm of other women. A strand of hair hung down, covering Shen An's face, making it difficult to understand his thoughts. Subconsciously swallowing with a craving in the Adam's apple. Yu raised his right hand slightly, pinned his hair behind Shen An's small ear, and turned off the room light with his left hand. It's pitch black and beautiful. Shen An, who could not resist Yu, could only give up his struggle and silently comfort himself in his heart. This is the most handsome and wealthy man in the entire northern city, and she has made a profit. The snowflakes outside are still floating sporadically, the cold winter wind is blowing fiercely, but the temperature inside the house is gradually warming up, interweaving different emotions. In the morning, Shen An was awakened by pain, with a sore body and a large bruise. Animal. Looking at Yu, who was still asleep, Shen An cursed low and without hesitation lifted the blanket, giving him 2 slaps on his bare pages. Who would have thought that her self-developed medicine would actually be used on her own body, and that it would have an impact on her medical reputation? Taking advantage of the fact that the goods were not yet awake, Shen An quickly wrapped himself in a bathrobe and put on the camel-colored wool coat he had worn last night. After all other clothes were declared dead in battle due to the intense fighting last night. No, my ice cream. Just as Shen An was about to leave, he turned back and picked up Yuqi's phone to tinker a few times. After seeing that his account had been successfully credited, he left with satisfaction. Returning to his own room, Shen An knew that this place was not suitable for staying for a long time. The northern city was a territory of Yuqi, so he had to find a residence to hide first. Brother, in your name, I can't stay in a hotel near here. Shen An hurriedly packed his luggage while getting through to Jiang Lijin's phone. Jiang Lijin, who heard Shen An calling herself brother, knew that calling him brother was definitely not a good thing. Okay, I just finished taking care of the villa in the southern part of Beijing. You can go directly there. If you have anything, just find Xiao Hongxing. She has already arrived in Beijing with her people. Okay. Shen An worked hard with Jiang Lijin in the southern city at the age of 16, founding Hacker L. He ranked first on the hacker list for 5 consecutive years, with each bounty worth a lot. His subordinates also honed many members of Hacker L and galloped in various industries. The people outside thought that Hacker L was just a person, but never imagined that this was actually a powerful organization. Jiang Lijin didn't know what happened to Shen An last night and why she was so anxious, but she must have had a reason, so she didn't ask much. Shen An didn't have time to chat with Jiang Lijin, so he dragged his suitcase and headed towards the underground parking lot. Fortunately, he picked up a Porsche this time and it was more convenient to have a car. Shoo, the silver Porsche shattered the tranquility of the parking lot in the early morning and quickly drowned in the endless flow of traffic in Sichuan. Awakening, Yuqi not only felt a wave of emptiness in his abdomen, but also a burning pain in his buttocks. Is this the price of having meat? Yuqi moved his body and rubbed his tired sword eyebrows, his head unexpectedly refreshed. The figure of the woman from last night has long disappeared from beside me. I have always been clean and self-disciplined, but surprisingly, I broke my rules because of L. Yu lazily stepped on his slippers and got off the bed, taking a glance at the messy floor and the bright red flowers on the bed, feeling a bit unsatisfied. He Qing Fan, check someone. If I remember correctly, the front desk called her Miss Shen last night. A hint of evil smile unconsciously welled up at the corner of my mouth, but it turned into an ice knife when I saw the 2 bright red palm prints behind me through the full-body mirror. You'd better pray not to be found by me. The originally gentle face collapsed instantly, and upon seeing the unknown transfer record, she felt like she was falling into an ice cellar. Does this woman treat herself like a soft persimmon? Yu has lived to this age and has never been bullied like this before. You don't need to check, I'll do it myself. He Qing Fan, who received 2 consecutive phone calls from Yu Bei, also looked bewildered. There were not many people who could make Yu Bei self-check. Curiosity suddenly arises. Shen Li. Looking at the report in front of him, Yu Qi's well-defined hand casually tapped on the table, savoring these 2 words. Is it a coincidence or a human error to have the same surname as his An? A resume without any distinctive features, ordinary and unremarkable, making it impossible to find any mistakes or omissions. This is really interesting. Yu doesn't believe in coincidences, he only believes in himself. He never allows others to control his own destiny. Woman, I will make you pay back several times. Brother. Who is she? He Qing Fan, who broke into Yu Qi's office, seemed to have discovered a new continent. Looking at the photo of Shen An on the report, he looked excited and turned out to be a charming and beautiful woman. It's none of your business. Yu impatiently locked the report form into the cabinet, without wanting to say anything more to He Qing Fan. He is known for his big mouth, and Yu is not so foolish as to inform everyone about this matter. What about the future sister? Law. It seems that brother Xiaoga has started eating meat. Haha. He Qing Fan doesn't have much skill in handling company affairs, but he is very shrewd when it comes to gossip. If you have something to say, just leave. I had already suffered from exhaustion today and my mood was already unhappy. Yu dares to guarantee that if He Qing Fan wants to say something useless again, he will send him to work in India. Oh, my important information. L appeared at the hotel where you stayed an hour ago. As a good helper of Yu Qi, He Qing Fan not only has some benefits in eating, drinking, and playing. An hour ago, that woman should have been there too, isn't she? L. End of this chapter. Chapter 4004. I can heal her. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4004. I can heal her. Shen An drove for 2 hours to reach the southern villa in Jiang Lijin's mouth. There were only 2 villas in the northern city, one in the north and the other in the south. The northern region has long had famous flower owners, while the southern villa owners have never appeared. I didn't expect it to be Jiang Lijin. Shen An's arrangement with Jiang Lijin was a bit unexpected. This villa was bought by an anonymous buyer 5 years ago, which means Jiang Lijin had already thought about it today. Outside the car, there is a vast expanse of white snow, and the ice and snow are slowly melting, making the entire city exceptionally quiet. The southern villa stands on the hillside, accompanied by the lonely wudong trees, but it seems less lonely. The house was cleaned very clean, a clean and spacious 5-story ocean building, with a unique cave in the back, a swimming pool, training ground, and research and development room. Shen An still doesn't want to own the training ground. She's already 23 years old, and she's still being coerced into training, sobbing when the master was here. She was caught by the master to practice combat. Now that the master is not here, it's my brother's turn to take compulsory measures. Why has Shen An been caught and trained all her life? Shen An silently closed the door of the training ground and turned to the research and development room, which was her favorite. If Jiang Lijin is the leader of Hacker L, then Shen An is the leader of an pharmaceutical. The drugs inside are hard to find, and drugs that cannot be bought in the market can be found here. Shen An, who grew up in the mountains and valleys since childhood, was taught by his master and has long been familiar with the properties of various herbs. He has a high level of understanding in the field of pharmaceuticals. 2 years ago, An emerged and gained great fame in the southern city, becoming a precious medicine sought after by prestigious families. Now that the southern market has been opened up, the northern city is likely to be within reach. My master is from Beijing. Will there be any hidden secrets from my master in this unfamiliar land? Shen An lay in bed, pondering these questions and falling asleep. The goose-down quilt was very soft, with a hint of vanilla scent, refreshing the heart. Ding-ling-ling. Shen An was awakened by the constantly shouting phone ringtone. Shen An has 2 phones, and such an unpleasant ringtone must be Shen Li's phone. The voice, which was originally tired, became clear at the moment of answering the phone, without any other emotions, with a hint of coldness. The fish has caught the bait. Shen Li. The other party's deep and magnetic voice was extremely seductive, a bit pleasant, and disturbed Shen An's mood. What's up? Shen An sat up from the bed and casually played with his nails, as if it was an unimportant conversation. You want to run after taking my money? There was no joy in the ending with lingering notes, but it didn't matter. Shen An knew he wasn't too happy either. Being a good person emphasizes integrity. 10,000 ice creams are just converted into currency. How do you need me to remind you? Yu smiled instead of being angry, and the playfulness in his eyes deepened. What? Shen An is not afraid of you Xiao, but after all, he is using Shen Li's identity, so it's better to be calm. I'm not human. Yes, he's not a human, he's the living king of hell in the North City. So what? The young master of the Yu family shouldn't even be stingy with this little money, right? The Yu family has a great business, not to mention 10,000 ice creams, 1 billion can be easily taken out. Have you taken your medicine? Obviously, Yu Qi didn't want to beat around the bush with her and asked directly. Sister, during the safety period, you also took measures. Don't you know that girls taking too much medicine is good for their health? Shen An didn't have much patience to beat around the bush with him. With a hot temper, he wished she could go over and give him a few punches immediately, although he couldn't win. Yu, who was criticized, was speechless. He didn't even know about this, and it was the first time he had even started a meat meal, cough. Don't bother to think about my seed. Are you pregnant with your sister? Do you think I want to have sex with you? Don't be too arrogant as a person. Upon hearing these words, Shen An was instantly shocked. He originally thought that Yu was unreasonable, but he didn't expect him to be so narcissistic. Tonight at 7 o'clock, the Yu family manor banquet, I think you should be interested. Upon hearing these words, Shen An's eyebrows lifted lightly, and his emotionless eyes fluctuated slightly. The banquet of the Yu family must have belonged to the upper class. Starting from them, and should be able to develop very quickly. Since Mr. Yu has invited me warmly, I, Shen Li, would be honored. The official language left Yu a bit stunned, as he seemed to miss the damn gentleness of last night. But soon suppressed that damn illusion, nostalgia. Impossible. Shen An only found out after arriving at the Yu family estate that today was the 80th birthday of the Yu family's old man. It was a bit embarrassing not to bring a gift. Miss Shen, please, the waiter had been waiting at the door for a long time, leading Shen An into the venue. This Yu family manor is really impressive. Along the way, the vast courtyard was filled with camellias, with pure white petals reflecting each other, exuding a romantic atmosphere. I believe this old man from the Yu family loves his wife very much, camellia, also known as ideal love. Shen An watched as he arrived at the conference hall. Before he could see the situation in front of him clearly, he was caught off guard by a pair of strong and energetic arms. Looking up, it's not who the narcissist is. Let go. Sensing that people around her were staring at her, Shen An was also annoyed. She just came to watch the excitement and advertise for her An. She didn't want to become a thorn in the side of a wealthy woman. Grandparents, she's here. Shen An was truly shocked by Yu's confusing behavior. Why did he still bring his parents with him? Are you an unsupported girlfriend? Sun Qingwen quickly approached with a kind smile on her face. The first impression given to Shen An was as warm as the spring breeze. Who would have thought that this ice-faced grandmother was so gentle and kind? I know. Oh, Wen, come wipe your hands. There's cream on your hands, it's dirty. Standing on the side, Yu Jingrong carefully wiped Sun Qingwen with a tissue, completely lacking the authority of the head of the Yu family. Looking at Sun Qingwen's innocent and childlike appearance, Shen An immediately realized that she had developed senile dementia. But it's quite good to have someone who loves and hurts like this. Shen An's gaze scanned from top to bottom, and the blood Qin jade bracelet on Sun Qingwen's left wrist looked particularly familiar. Its condition was almost the same as the bracelet seen in the photos taken by her master all year round. A conjecture jumped out of Shen An's head, bold and outrageous. I beg you to come over. Shen An pulled Yu standing aside and walked towards the lounge, feeling a sense of direction in her heart. She needed to seize the opportunity. I need an actor tonight. Grandma insists on making a fuss about finding one. Yu thought Shen An was doing it for tonight, knowing it was his own problem. He explained it before Shen An asked. Even Yu Xiao didn't realize that he was patiently explaining to Shen An. I can cure your grandmother. Shen An paused for a moment, firmly looking at Yu, who had raised her head, and revealing his identity. Seeking a recommended ticket. Support friends who like it can leave more messages. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. 005 Blue Rose. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5005 Blue Rose, Condition. A magnetic low voice rang out in the room, and Yuqi's slender fingers were playing with the lighter in his palm, opening and closing, obviously not paying attention to what Shen An said. He is a businessman who doesn't believe in these unilateral promises, and the woman in front of him probably isn't so kind either. Besides, dementia in old age is not so easy to treat, and the problem that has not been cured for many years can be solved by a 23-year-old young woman in front of her. Help me expand the market in Beijing, and I'll help you cure your grandmother. Shen An has great confidence in his own abilities and has already conducted in-depth research on dementia in old age. It is imperative to cure his grandmother. And pharmaceutical only became popular in the southern city in the first 2 years, and few people in the northern city have heard of his legend. Shen An knows that Yu currently doesn't trust her, but she will make him look at her with new eyes. Regular treatment once a week, with a treatment of 100,000 yuan per session. Twice a week, one time cannot be less than 2 hours. Yu pondered for a while and was not satisfied with the conditions proposed by Shen An, so the merchant had to use the merchant's mind. Okay, make a deal. If it weren't for clarifying the relationship between master and son Qingwen, Shen An wouldn't have done this loss-making business. The price in Nanqing is not so cheap. Opening up the Beijing market is not something that cannot be achieved without Yuqiao, but if Yuqiao is angered, it should be impossible to do so. In front of your grandmother, you still need to remember your fake identity. Just as Yu Qi turned around and wanted to leave, he turned back and calmly added another condition. It is truly true that there is no business without fraud. Where did you place your fiancé AE? Shen An stared at the shiny black leather shoes in front of him, his brown pupils appearing a bit mysterious in the warm light, but still unable to show any emotions. It is well known to all people in Beijing that Yu has a fiancé AE, and the marriage of commercial giants has long become a plaything for power. But since we already have a fiancé AE, why do we need a fake girlfriend? Shen An is not something he can control. Don't ask so many questions that have nothing to do with you. Yu impatiently lit a cigarette, took occasional puffs, and exhaled a few wisps of smoke. This fiancé AE is not what he wants. He hasn't found the person he wants yet. Shen An secretly looked at Yu without saying a word, his sharp face, high nose bridge, and sexy lips, which made Shen An reminisce about last night's madness. Well, my physical fitness is very good. Shen An's face was slightly hot, and his little ears quickly turned crimson, with a white to red hue. I don't agree with this matter, I have something to do and will leave first. Shen An turned slightly to avoid Yu's powerful arms and wanted to step out on his side. I always feel that the air in the room is not circulating, otherwise why does she feel so hot? It's not advisable to stay here for a long time, leave quickly. If you don't agree, you have to agree. On your back. There are so many beautiful women outside, you can easily find one. Shen An was a bit impatient when being pulled, her eyebrows visibly furrowed. I have only seen a woman chasing a man and not letting him go after 1 year of love. What is the current situation? I've really seen a ghost. Yu clenched Shen An's slender jade hand on his side, pursed his thin lips slightly, and his deep black eyes seemed to be pondering something. Do you have a red oval birthmark on your back? Last night, it was dark, and Yu didn't notice. I don't know if she might be the person I've been looking for years. Mr. Yu, are you looking for someone? Unfortunately, I don't have one. Shen An lifted his head and met Yu Fu's somewhat frustrated face, but still lifted his lips lightly and spat out a few words that Yu Fu didn't want to hear. Yu stared at Shen An's eyes, a bit dazed. When I first saw An's eyes, they were the same as Shen An's eyes now. They were clean and free of impurities. If Mr. Yu has nothing to do, I'll go back first. Shen An straightened his broken hair in front of his forehead, shook off his held arm with contentment, and walked away with a swaying posture on the 8-centimeter handmade custom-made black high heels. As soon as Shen An left the lounge, he could feel various malicious gazes around him, ranging from probing to jealousy. Shen An didn't care, he didn't mind these unfriendly looks and walked straight to the door without looking back. Who are you from Yuqi? Shen An, who had just walked into the courtyard, was stopped by a woman wearing a pink strapless fluffy skirt. Based on the woman's intuition, she inexplicably felt that she should be a lover of Yuqi. Doctor. Shen An did not stop because of this, decisively avoided her and answered 2 words with ease. He is indeed a doctor, not lying. Humph. You better just be a doctor. Bai Jing, who had not been looked at by Shen An, stomped her foot in hatred. She was the apple of the Bai family's eye and had never been looked down upon. This doctor is so bold. Returning to the southern villa, Shen An felt refreshed. Unexpectedly, as soon as he arrived in Beijing, he solved the bottleneck of an pharmaceutical startup. Collaborating with the big shot Yu family in Beijing was undoubtedly the best choice. Shen An let go of his tired thoughts and casually took off the hateful sky high he had been wearing for 2 hours. He untied the veil that bound his body and planned to take a comfortable hot bath. The clothes are lightly peeled off, revealing smooth and fair skin, as tender as freshly broken eggs. The temperature of the hot water was just adjusted, and Shen An lay relaxed in the bathtub, playing with the aroma of camellia bubbles. The tense day finally had a moment of rest. A seductive blue rose tattoo stands out particularly stunning against the backdrop of white bubbles, blooming on its slender back, exuding an indescribable mystery. Looking at the blue rose tattoo in the mirror, a seductive smile welled up at the corner of Shen An's mouth. An elliptical birthmark. She doesn't have Shen An, only this blue rose the size of a thumb. But why did Yu Xiao look for her? They didn't know each other before, is it related to their own background? Shen An's feelings towards his parents are difficult to describe. Does he hate them? Not at all. I don't even know who my biological parents are, and I can't hate them. Bitter memories gush out like spring water, devouring Shen An's heart like ghosts, with dense pain. If it weren't for the master picking up herbs on the mountain that morning and throwing her in the grass, there might not be Shen An in the world now. Oh no, it's Shenli now. Shen An uses the pseudonym Shenli to the outside world, and she doesn't want anyone to know her story, except for Jiang Lijin, whom she has been living with. Jiang Lijin was already adopted by Shen An's master before he was picked up by him. He was 2 years older than Shen An and was not a relative, but rather a relative. I'm also quite lucky. At least there is also a master and Jiang Lijin accompanying. But why did the master not leave when she was 16 years old? A drop of hot tears slid over Shen An's cheek and disappeared into the bathtub, silently as if it had never existed. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Let you get out, are you really getting out? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. Let you get out, are you really getting out? Hey brother, where's Jean Tan? Why didn't you see his figure today? When Qing Fan found Yu Qi, he was drinking 1 cup at a time, without the figure of a hidden fire person beside him. Hospitals. After drinking all the red wine in the glass, Yu Qi answered in a muffled tone. Yesterday, all the surveillance cameras at Su's manor were hacked, and when Qing Fan checked, it was already 1 step late. L's movements were really fast. Not only fast, but also ruthless enough. My capable assistant Jean Tan is still resting in the hospital, taking a new type of aromatherapy medication and finally recovering after 3 consecutive bottles of sedatives. Jean Tan's time in the lounge was not as long as Yu Bei, which is enough to show how painful Yu Bei was that night. TSK, what kind of medicine is this? Why is it so strong? Even if it doesn't support you. Qing Fan coquettishly raised his orchid finger and hooked Goyu's slightly bearded and sexy chin, his eyes filled with teasing. Do you want to go to India again? Yu's slightly warning and threatening voice made Qing Fan tremble uneasily and goosebumps rise. The days when I worked hard in India were unbearable. The dog man has such a bad heart. Qing Fan silently looked at Yu Xiaojia in his heart, but on the surface, he still happily moved his chicken paw away from Yu Xiaojia's face. Humph, the little man can bend and stretch, not to argue with Yu Bei so much. No, that's your mistake. I'm here to tell you the latest intelligence about Hacker L. Qing Fan crossed his legs on the sofa, his fancy shirt wrinkled in his casual manipulation, muttering with a hint of proud anger in his words. Say. Yu's eyes were fixed on Shen Li's information at this moment, looking intently. As far as I know, Hacker L seems to be staying in Beijing for a period of time. As the second-ranked hacker on the list, Qing Fan received almost all the gossip from him, which is also why Yu Wei saved him from his father's side back then. How long will it take to arrive? Yu lifted his head from the information and gave Qing Fan a face-up. Oh, how handsome. I don't support it. He Qing Fan silently swallowed a mouthful of water, feeling inwardly resentful. The plane arrives at the airport at 5:30 p.m. Who is He Qing Fan? He is a melon eater jumping up and down between major networks, and there are melons he doesn't know about. How could it be? By the way, your fiancé AE. Taking a sneak glance at Yu Chi's face, it was still sunny, so mentioning women shouldn't be a big problem. People who don't know Yu Gue thought he had misogyny, but in fact, he simply dislikes women who are flashy and dressed in rouge and powder. She. What's wrong? Upon hearing He Qing Fan mention his fiancé AE, Yue remembered that Sun Yanjin seemed to have suffered the most that day. It seems that I will go back to see my grandfather again later. Your fiancé AE is causing a commotion at the Su family to cancel her engagement. He Qing Fan only heard about it this morning when he went out. His neighbor was the Su family, and as soon as he left, he saw the young lady of the Su family kneeling at the entrance of the Su family courtyard, muttering incessantly. Alas, it's also quite unfortunate. My marriage doesn't even count for me. Oh. Unexpectedly, Yu Chi didn't pay any attention to this big news, as if the protagonist had nothing to do with him. He just calmly, oh, for a moment. Is that all? Watching Yu Shi's calm demeanor, He Qing Fan lost his mind of gossiping and silently sat on the sofa playing games. Big brother. Take me flying, here we go, little brother. He Qing Fan completely forgot where he was and fully immersed himself in the game, giving a burst of voice output to his game teammates, and his words became increasingly intense. Shut up. It was already annoying enough, and something so noisy came along. It's even more annoying. I'll go out for a trip. Yu was too lazy to pay attention to He Qing Fan, who was still addicted to games, so he picked up his suit jacket and walked out. When Yu Support returned to his old house, Yu Jingrong was feeding Sun Qingwen millet porridge. After a good coax, he ate the small bowl of congee. Do you also know you're back? Glancing at Yu Gue returning from the door, Yu Jingrong put down the spoon, picked up the folding fan next to him, and threw it over. It hit Yu Gue's temple, leaving a deep red mark. Yu can actually avoid it completely, but he still welcomes it. How can he terminate the engagement without suffering a bit? Don't want me to come back. Then I'll go. Before stepping through the door, I turned back. Anyway, people have seen it and can now explain the situation. Hey, you stinky kid. Yushi, get out of here. Seeing Yushi about to leave, Yu Jingrong wished he could go up and slap him twice, but now he can't beat this grandson anymore. Let him go, really go. Yu doesn't really want to leave, he just wants to anger this bad old man. Not supported. Not supported. Sun Qingwen's calm eyes lit up immediately upon hearing Yu Chi's name, and she murmured words in her mouth. Even though she suffered from senile dementia, she did not forget Yu Jingrong and Yu Chi. Yushi, who has always had an icy face, also softened a bit after seeing Sun Qingwen, holding on to her bony hand and patiently listening to her grandmother's words. Oh no, where are your parents? Grandma, why haven't I seen them? Sun Qingwen is still living in the past. Little did she know that it was because of the car accident that she became what she is now. Standing beside him, Yu Jingrong couldn't help but blush in his eyes. He gritted his teeth tightly but still trembling, revealing his emotions. As you can see, my grandparents are half buried in the ground. It would be great to find a companion quickly. Yu Jingrong is the person who wants to see Yushi's happiness the most. He has already paved the way for him, why is he so stubborn? It's not her who needs a companion. Yu gently caressed Sun Qingwen's emaciated hand, her black eyes filled with sadness. He also wants happiness. But it can't be done. Only he survived the car accident, and the culprit behind it has not been found yet. How could his parents smile? How can I leave them behind to be happy? Who is that? Grandpa, I just want you to get married and start a business now. I won't regret it for life if I see you get married and have children. Upon hearing these words, Yu Jingrong realized that it was not that he didn't want to get married, but that his partner didn't like him. This Su Nianjin is the best candidate selected by Grandpa among all the families in Beiqing. Who else can match her? Yu Jingrong never understood his grandson in his lifetime. In terms of appearance, education, and family background, the Su family is the best choice. Grandpa, are you marrying your grandmother because she is the best person in the entire northern city? Isn't it because your grandmother is the best person in your heart? Yu stared at Yu Jingrong's face, unable to show any expression, but he knew that his grandfather would not force him to get engaged in the future. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. 007 Finally Met. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. 007 Finally met Yu, who returned from his old house, had an extra item in his hand. A small women's handbag. It is said that it was left at last night's banquet, and now it is still in an unclaimed state. Yu Jingrong can only rely on Yu Xiao to solve it. Yu recognized his owner at a glance, whether the lingering vanilla scent emanating from it belonged to Shen or someone else. What is inside here? Do you want to take a look? Well, to ensure that the owner is not wrong, let's take a look. Yu comforted himself with a guilty heart and found a reason to flip his bag. No, how long have you become so polite? Damn woman. Without hesitation, the slender fingers unzipped the bag, revealing not only a lipstick and some identification documents, but also a yellowed vintage photo inside. The slightly yellow film and the wrinkled border prove that its age is somewhat ancient, and the three people in the photo are smiling brightly and naively. Those three people dressed frugally and gestured towards the camera. Isn't that the Nen they were longing for? There is also Jiang Lijin, a younger brother who is often bullied by himself. The calloused fingertips gently caressed the edges of the photo, and his cold eyes carried a hint of smile. He knew that Shen was Shen An. In an instant, the shining smiling face stimulated Yu Qi's nerves, and memories rushed towards him like fierce waves. The pain in his temples was unbearable like a needle prick, and the things in front of him began to sway, a vast expanse of white. Yu dreamed of the year when he was 13 years old, that terrifying yet beautiful year. The eerie vibration of the car body and the accelerating truck rushing towards him were the only things he remembered before he fell into a coma. He knew he had been in a car accident and was on his way to the amusement park with his parents. From then on, he will never go to that amusement park he has never been to before. If he didn't argue about going to the amusement park that day, would the outcome be different? I will also have my parents who love me, my grandmother will not suffer from dementia, and I will also have someone to love. Yu Qi, trapped in a nightmare, curled up on the sofa, her eyelashes trembling as light as cicada wings, and tears streaming down her face. Yu Qi in the dream once again lost her parents. Yu knows he lives in the darkness, but without sunshine, he can only nestle in the darkness and endure loneliness. After waking up, Yu Qi wiped away the tears on his cheeks with his thumb, his lonely expression quickly faded away, and he remained the ruthless and iron-blooded living king of hell. Stuff the photo into the lady's bag, and then confidently call Shen An to schedule a time and place to meet again. Fingers with distinct joints were playing with the small bag, thinking about something in their minds. The person in the photo is Shen An, there can be no mistake. Since she has forgotten herself, let her know her again. Shen An only realized that her bag was missing after receiving a call from Yu Qi. As a careless woman, she took a bath last night and fell asleep, sleeping for a full 12 hours. Pigs probably don't sleep as well as her, right? Forget it, even if it's a pig, be a charming pig, Miss Shen, get up and have breakfast now. Xiao Hongxing, who had already tidied up the room in an orderly manner, wiped his hands and brought breakfast to the table. All of them are featured breakfasts in Nanqing. Sweet-scented osmanthus rolled rice porridge, glutinous egg soup, and crisp rose cake, which Shen An has loved since childhood. Xiao Hongxing has known Shen An for 10 years and has been responsible for their daily life since childhood. He knows their tastes the best. Little star, why did you come so early? Drowsy-eyed Shen An yawned and came out of the room to see a table full of breakfast. The greedy insects in his stomach were hooked out by the fragrance. The sun has been operating for a long time. Xiao Hongxing was brought home by Jiang Lijin when he was 15 years old. At that time, he was helpless and followed Jiang Lijin to do things. They were kind to Xiao Hongxing. But in Shen An's eyes, Xiao Hongxing is a thoughtful and heartwarming chef, as well as a kind-hearted elder sister. Hee, I know Star Sister won't give my brother a tip. Shen An touched the tip of his nose and gave a guilty smile, casting coquettishness in Xiao Hongxing's arms. You're the sweetest, I'm leaving. There's something else going on at the base. Xiao Hongxing rubbed Shen An's furry head, quickly took off his apron, revealing his all-black tight-fitting clothes, and hurriedly left. By the way, the boss said you can't reach him. Let me tell you, he will arrive tonight. Xiao Hongxing, who had left the door, returned and informed Shen An of the things entrusted by Jiang Lijin. Sister, go ahead and help yourself. Shen An, who was busy drinking congee, kept drinking without lifting his head and promised repeatedly in his nose that no one could influence his eating. It was already 1 o'clock in the afternoon after finishing, and Shen An casually tidied up before driving towards the northern estate. This metaphor is really lazy. Even if you have to cross the entire northern city and go to the northern manor to pick up a bag, will you lose legs if you leave your own house? After driving for 2 hours, Shen An arrived at the northern manor. Looking at the magnificent appearance, he couldn't help but burst into language output. Houses are as narcissistic as people. No, is this your bag? Yu Qi, who was rarely at home, wore loose light gray home clothes and waited patiently for people to come to her door. She pushed away her work and finally waited for 5 hours before finally arriving. Well, give it to me. There is still an hour left until Jiang Lijin arrives at the airport. Although the airport is not far from here, it is difficult for Shen An to avoid being late due to the leisurely attitude of the crown prince in front of him. The girl in the photo is you. Yu didn't actually want to say anything, he could investigate all of this on his own, but he inexplicably wanted to hear Shen An's exact answer from himself. Even he didn't realize that his hand behind him was unconsciously clenching, and the damp sweat covered his palms. Photos. Oh, that's not me. It's my sisters who played well when I was young. Besides pharmaceuticals, Shen An is best at performing. Why does the crown prince of the Yu family in front of him care about this issue? Did he know her before? Shen An didn't want to admit herself, she wanted to see what the man in front of her who hadn't seen him many times was going to do. And what about her? Yu did not show any changes in his expression, as if he was talking about something very ordinary. She's gone, I don't know where she is either. Oh my, please give it back to me quickly, I'm in a hurry. Shen An snatched the bag from Yu's hand and didn't want to waste any more time here. Mainly because if you talk too much, you're afraid of revealing the truth. Anan, I know it's you. Yu's determined voice startled Shen An, his eyelids bouncing and his standing legs feeling a bit weak. How did he know? Who are you? In Shen An's memory, she did not recognize such a powerful young master of the Yu family. Shen An, we finally met. A relieved and cheerful smile appeared at the corner of Yu Qi's mouth, with an indescribable joy, even his voice was filled with a smile. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. You are Big Brother. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. You are Big Brother. The tough and handsome face of the man in front of him overlapped with the face of the boy he first met when he was young. Shen An felt a bit dazed and stumbled several steps, feeling an incredulous suspicion in his heart. Are you that Big Brother? When Shen An was young, her impression of Yu was already quite vague. After all, she was only 6 years old at that time, and her memories slowly faded away in the erosion of time. In addition to this only photo, it can slightly evoke those brief moments of beauty. Little girl scammer, you forgot about me so quickly. Yu hooked his lips, his once cold face now shining like a spring breeze, with a smile reaching his eyes. The first time we met, you slapped me, and now that we're back together, you slapped me twice again. How do we calculate this amount? A strong iron arm rested on Shen An's shoulder, imprisoning his space for movement. The handsome face instantly approached Shen An, and the enlarged handsome face hit Shen An's heart, which was pounding like a deer. Just speak, why are you getting so close? Their breaths intertwined, with hot air rolling and intertwining, even thinning the surrounding air. Shen An was stared at unnaturally by Yu Bei's naked and aggressive gaze, his gaze wandering and looking elsewhere. As long as you don't look at the man in front of you, after all, your heart is too empty. What would happen if you give 2 slaps to the top bully in the North City? There is no precedent for this yet, Shen An is not quite sure. But she knew very well that she couldn't continue acting in front of Yu. What a coincidence, big brother. That's all an old story, why did you encounter it after so many years? After taking 3 deep breaths, Shen An raised a seductive smile that was pleasing, and met Yu Qi's eyes with a soft smile. These metaphorical eyes are really beautiful. Under the thick and slender eyelashes, there is a deep eye with a magical vortex attraction that makes Shen An unable to help but sink. Unfortunately, not encountering it is because the heavens have lost their sight. Yu Qi put away his arm resting on Shen An and snorted coldly, trying to restrain his movements and not scare her. Don't lose the person you finally found. What does it mean not meeting someone is enough to make them dizzy? Shen An silently murmured in his heart, with so many people, it's normal not to meet them. Big brother, considering that we are old acquaintances, let's just write off the previous events. Our bridge returns to the bridge, and the road returns to the road. Shen An doesn't want to cause any trouble for himself, especially since he can't afford to provoke the person in front of him at the moment. Although Shen An shouted, big brother, to Yu, he only shouted for a month and didn't even know his real name. Shortly after his master rescued Yu, someone picked him up and left. I didn't even say hello. I and Jiang Lijin came back from catching fish in the river and only found out when they saw the empty room that their newly arrived brother had left. But after staying in the mountains with Jiang Lijin for so many years, why hasn't anyone come to pick them up? At that time, Shen An, who was 10 years old, understood a truth. Whoever truly wanted to find you would find you no matter what. She also understood that she and Jiang Lijin were unwanted children. Shen An, whose thoughts had drifted away, withdrew his dull and empty gaze and looked at Yu Qi with a slight unfamiliar distance in his eyes. The past between them was just a passing presence. People who have only known each other for about a month may not have much familiarity. The momentary coldness restrained the smile on Yu Qi's face. His thin lips, which were originally curved, were pursed into a straight line, and his black eyes were so cold that they could drip ink. Unable to sell, we will always be entangled like vines, inseparable. Yu approached Shen An's face and pressed it against her right ear, like a curse from Jesus. His deep voice lingered in Shen An's mind, lingering. He didn't say let go, so he can't say let go. Kicking aside the stool next to him, Yu walked upstairs with a cold expression on his face, leaving Shen An sitting alone in despair. Returning to the room, Yu Qi had a stern face, with anger and dissatisfaction blocking his chest, forcing him to gasp for breath. The veins on his arms erupted, and his fist silently struck the goose-down quilt on the bed. The goose-down fluttered in the grey-style room, lonely and sad. He left the Nanqing village, Shen An, and his master for 17 years, and no one knows how he came here. Outsiders only know that he became famous at a young age and was a leader in the business world, making him the most promising future heir to the Yu family's legacy. But he lost both parents at the age of 13, enduring loneliness and pressure alone, with no choice but to go. He thought of tens of thousands of ways to reunite with Shen An and tried many methods to find his former friend, but now the unfamiliar coldness has plunged Yue Wei into the abyss. Why did he miss her for more than a decade, but she threw him away in the back of his mind, he was unwilling. 1 hour later, Yue Wei appeared at the airport wearing a well-cut black suit and repeatedly invited Hacker L. Yue Wei had already given him enough face. Brother Xiao, I'm sure Hacker L boarded this flight. He Qing Fan stood behind Yu Qi, carefully reporting the latest information he knew. I don't know which scumbag has offended you today. His face is extremely dark, and He Qing Fan dare not easily provoke him. Stay tuned. Yu licked his back teeth, like a hunting wolf, his gaze fixed on the passage in front of him, not letting anyone go. Hey brother. No one. Jean Tan searched the entire airport with a team of Yohua people, but did not see the figure of Hacker L. He was played with again today. Damn it, I was deceived. Yu fiercely handed He Qing Fan a knife, turned around and snatched the car key from Jean Tan's hand. He drove a Land Rover alone towards another airport in the North City. There are only 2 airports in Beijing, and the airport where we are staying today is the largest airport in Beijing, where almost all planes pass by. This is also the reason why Yu Bei failed again today. I still can't trust He Qing Fan too much, this fake hacker. The speeding Land Rover drove rapidly towards the other side of the mountain on the road after the melting snow, hoping that the small amount of manpower he had sent in advance could hold him back. Jiang Lijin, who had just disembarked from a private plane, was welcomed by Shen An, and a warm object suddenly added to her chest. Hey, it's only been a few days since I last saw you. Is that how you think of me? Jiang Lijin smiled and rubbed Shen An's head, which was still as furry as before, and the touch felt good. Jiang Lijin, I've met our big brother. Shen An lifted his face, which was covered by a thick hat and scarf, and looked at Jiang Lijin, who had a gentle expression on his face. He spoke solemnly. Do you know? Jiang Lijin did not expect that Shen An had already known so much just a few days after coming to Beijing. Behind the gentle expression lay turbulent waves, and inexplicable emotions flashed by. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. The Truth of That Year. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. The truth of that year. 17 years ago, Yushi, covered in blood, was discovered by his master at the foot of the mountain and rested in the mountains for a month. This time is neither long nor short. Enough for Shen An to know and understand him. Shen An still remembers that it was a scorching summer day, with the evening summer wind blowing with heat waves, accompanied by cicadas chirping in the mountains and forests, and occasionally the mournful cries of Yu Qi being wiped with medicine by his master. The first time I met Yu Qi was when he was arguing for a phone with Jiang Lijin. At that time, Shen An saw someone bullying Jiang Lijin, so he ran over and slapped her, regardless of the situation. After finishing the fan, I realized that my phone was Yu Qi. Jiang Lijin was clamoring to play games on her phone, but Yu Qi refused, leading to a dispute. After finishing the fight, Shen An realized that things were not quite right and ran away without a trace, leaving Yu, who had been slapped, standing still. When Shen An was young, he didn't know how to apologize to others, so he sent a butterfly specimen made by himself to Yu Qi the next morning. That's the first specimen she made, of great significance. I don't know if the butterfly specimen is still there 17 years later in the blink of an eye. Stay away from him in the future, you may not be a good person. Jiang Lijin's warning voice shattered Shen An's thoughts, losing his usual gentle tone and carrying a rare toughness. It seems that Jiang Lijin is serious this time, so listen to my brother and he won't harm her. The two people who left the airport together put on sunglasses, said more, lowered their hats, and walked towards the parking lot. Yushi, who had just arrived at the airport, saw the two of them holding hands and happily walking towards Portia on the side. A cold chill emanated from inside out. If I'm not mistaken, the man next to Shen An is Hacker L. The brown hair, 1.8 meters tall, and wearing a globally limited edition Omega watch all confirmed the identity of Hacker L. There can be no mistake. Shen An is indeed related to Hacker L, and it seems that he is even very familiar with them. Are they, Shen An? Yu dared not think any further, and with a big stride, he blocked Shen An's road in front of Portia, who was about to drive away. What are you blocking my way for? Today is the second time I've seen you, why are you so haunted? Shen An's delicate eyebrows twisted into a ball, and his apricot eyes under sunglasses were filled with anger. He really wished he could be fed his own developed laxatives to broaden his horizons. A warm and broad hand covered Shen An's hand that wanted to open the car door. Jiang Lijin shook her head, indicating that she should not act recklessly. I'll do it. Jiang Lijin pushed the eyeglass frame and got off the car. Who are you? I'm looking for Shen An. Yu saw L's true face clearly and played with him like a monkey. He didn't insist on him, he had never been played with by anyone. Aren't you looking for me? Why? You don't need it now. Through the lens, Jiang Lijin could clearly see Yu Qi's appearance. He admitted that Yu Qi was as handsome as before. But he never imagined that he was the underestimated Jiang Lijin back then, right, L, you have no sincerity. You shouldn't rush to stick to your cold buttocks. Yu snorted coldly from his nose and didn't give Jiang Lijin a straight eye. Instead, he kept staring at Shen An in the car, who was playing with his phone with his head down. Since Mr. Yu is fine, please go back. Jiang Lijin was well aware that he had successfully angered Yuing, but he hoped that by doing so, Yuing could stay away from them. They have harmed their master. Do we still need to add Shen An now? Jiang Lijin will never allow such a thing to happen again. Let's go. Shen An, who was a bit impatient, raised his head slightly and looked at Jiang Lijin outside the car, clearly saying this to him. Shen An's patience has never been high. Well, good. Jiang Lijin smiled faintly, ignoring Yuing who was still standing. Yushi, we are already people from different paths, there's no need to hold on to me and not let go. At the moment when Shen An was stared at by Yugue this afternoon, he realized that Yugue might have a different kind of affection for her. What kind of long-term relationship can there be in a month's life 17 years ago? Shen An wouldn't believe these things. No one in the world can love herself more than herself, so she doesn't believe in these feelings of love. Shen An, you will come to me proactively. Yu does not believe that there will still be things in this world that he cannot take down. Even if there are, Yu will make him disappear. The roar of Land Rover gradually faded away, and the raging flames gradually ceased. The atmosphere between Jiang Lijin and Shen An also became particularly quiet, time passing by bit, as if waiting for something. Yu Bu is related to the disappearance of his master. Shen An, who lowered his head while playing with his phone, casually said something to Jiang Lijin, not a question, but an affirmation. Shen An's mind is more meticulous than anyone else's. Jiang Lijin's abnormal behavior these days has made her feel very strange. There must be something she doesn't know. I also guessed. On the day my master went missing, I saw someone from the Yu family coming. Jiang Lijin, who had always been elegant, tugged at the tie around her neck, furrowed her brows, and a sense of fatigue arose. That day, the master called him in alone and chatted with him for a long time. Jiang Lijin thought this was the usual lecture, but it seemed like something was different. Looking back on his master's words and actions, Jiang Lijin finally understood that his master wanted him to take good care of himself and his sister Shen An. The master is saying goodbye to them. I only hate that I was young and didn't understand, but looking back now, it's full of regret. People from the Yu family. Shen An thought that the master only had some unspoken secrets, could it be due to being forced by the people of the Yu family? The terrifying suspicion made Shen An feel scalp tingling, hoping that his master could still live a good life in a certain corner of the city. Yes, not long after the master left, a group of people forcibly broke in to search. I overheard them saying something difficult to explain to the Yu family. Now Shen An can also take charge and tell her the truth from back then. Yu Jia. The small lips lightly nibbled on these two words, and a decision was secretly made in their heart. Let's go home and make you Nanqing cuisine today. In fact, for Jiang Lijin, he only wants Shen An to live a good life and not to touch these dark sides. Let him bear the darkness alone. Okay, thank you, brother. I don't know why, my appetite has been on the rise lately. Shen An also concealed his cautious thoughts, raised a smiling face, broke the silence, and chatted with Jiang Lijin on a daily basis. Xiao Hongxing's cooking is better, the research room is too small, the training room is too big. Jiang Lijin drove with a smile on her face, listening to Shen An's rambling chatter. The original gloom gradually dissipated, and she really wanted time to come to a standstill at this moment. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. 010 An, Marry Me. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. 010 An, Marry Me. Miss Shen, both the Su and he families have declined our cooperation invitation, and other companies should also. As Shen An's assistant, Xiao Hongxing held the tablet and frowned as he finished reading about the recent company situation. Very bad. Got it, go ahead and get busy. After waiting for several days for replies from various companies, Shen An received rejection letters one after another. No company was willing to cooperate with her, and pharmaceutical, and research and development had also reached the most critical period. Yu Bu, this piece of trash is really tough. Abandoning the medical gloves in his hand, Shen An hastily tidied up the desk in the research room and angrily prepared to settle accounts with Yu Ying. What else would he do besides threaten? Shen An couldn't help but show some disdain towards him. Stinky men only use these despicable means to force others to submit. Besides, in pharmaceutical, Jiang Lijin has been living a particularly difficult life these days, as if there is always a mysterious force snatching away his orders. After each order, the client would cancel the cooperation for various strange reasons, leaving Jiang Lijin and Shen An in a situation where they had no money to make. If this continues, the entire Hacker L Group N and pharmaceutical will be unable to survive, and their efforts over the past few years will be in vain. I didn't expect Yu Qi to have such a great influence in these short years, which made Shen An have to reassess the strength of his opponent in front of him. It was originally an hour's drive, but Shen An only took 30 minutes to rush to the bottom of the building of Yusher Enterprise. She wanted to see what Yusher wanted to do. Find Yu Bu. Shen An said to the front desk with a gloomy expression. She only wants to develop a poison to kill him now. It's so infuriating. Miss, it's impossible to see Mr. Yu without an appointment. The front desk secretly scrutinized Shen An's attire, which was extraordinary and still needed to be well attended to. Then you go notify me and I'll find him. Damn, breaking the rules. Shen An insists on waiting until she sees him today. I see how long he has to wait for himself. Okay miss, please patiently wait in the nearby rest area. Shen An had a calm and delicate face, calmly wandering around, looking at the decoration of Yusher and secretly examining the working environment here. The decoration style is the same as his entire personality, with unpredictable shades and a dark gray. After waiting for a few 10 minutes, Shen An was led by the front desk up to the 88th floor, which is the exclusive floor of the president. He's really domineering. He even gave him such a wide area. Undoubtedly, it is the top tycoon in the northern city. Buckle buckle. Shen An tried his best to suppress his temper and patiently knocked on the office door a few times. It's really cheap to pretend to sit inside even though you know you're coming. Shen An silently kicked him a few times in his heart before opening the door to the office. Yushi. What the hell are you doing? Sharp and cold words blurted out from Shen An's mouth, and at this moment, she wished her words could turn into sharp knives and give Yu Qi a few cuts. In addition to Yu Qi, there was also He Qing Fan in the office. The two of them were discussing some business matters and were startled by Shen An's voice. Good guy, I dare to say that my sister-in-law is a warrior. There's a good show to watch. He Qing Fan silently moved his body against Yu Qi, trying to prevent Shen An's anger from spreading on him. He was only pure to watch the play. Did you find me? It's been a few days since I last saw you, and the little wild cat has become even more wild. He likes it. Yu put down the pen in his hand, his face filled with pride, and everything was under his control. What do you want from me? Isn't treating your grandmother enough? Yu himself should know that there is only one person in the world who can cure his grandmother now. I changed my mind, I still need you. Anyway, they haven't signed a contract yet, and the previous verbal agreement has no binding force in front of him. What is the relationship between Elle and Shen An? Such an intimate relationship sounded the alarm for Yu that he wanted to have her immediately. He can't wait anymore. What are you talking nonsense about? Shen An was praised for his straightforward words, which made his face turn red. A blush stained his earlobes, so red that he could bleed. Besides, there are still outsiders present now. Do you really think Shen An is easy to flirt with? He, brother Xiao, take your time chatting. I'm leaving. Goodbye, sister In. Law. He Qing Fan suppressed the smile in his heart, picked up his phone, and ran out, saying hello to Shen An before leaving. Who is your sister In? Law. Keep your mouth clean. Shen An kicked the sofa next to him to vent his anger. Sure enough, you can say whatever kind of nonsense you want with someone you follow. Shen An gave Ewing a white eye, too lazy to pay attention to him, and sat on the sofa with his legs crossed, looking around the office. Want to smash something? No, this antique vase is the most valuable, smash it. He Qing Fan just told him that girls need to rely on coaxing, and he doesn't know how to calculate coaxing. Is spending money a good deal? Yuchi. We are just friends, even. Not even friends, just passers-by in the pastime, you should understand. Seeing that Yu doesn't seem like an unreasonable person, Shen An also knows that being tough on him is not enough, so he can only suppress his anger and reason with him. The Grand President, wouldn't he be so unreasonable? Passengers. Yu was obviously hurt by this word. The person she had been thinking about for over a decade was just a passerby in her heart. Other women are rushing to lean against him, how could they change when they reach Shen An? A hint of bitterness spreads and ferments in the heart until it fills the entire atrium. The beautiful Danfeng had a hint of red blood hidden in her eyes, sliding past the hard-to-be-noticed sadness and then turning into a cold and fierce aura. Then don't become a passerby now. Yu Bei bullied his body, and the strong advantage of a man made Shen An unable to move and could only be manipulated by Yu Bei at will. The clothes fell down in a panic, and the curtains and door locks were also tightly closed under the instructions of the button, creating a room full of absurdity and charm. Shen An felt his dignity trampled upon, as if he was in front of Yu, with only this empty body. Is that enough? The hoarse voice was accompanied by a suppressed tremolo, and tears slid down the tear channels into the hair, nowhere to be found. Never enough. Anan, marry me. At this moment, Yu Qi seemed to be caught in a paranoia. He didn't want to lose anyone anymore, he wanted to have her, that's all. Anan. How familiar and affectionate a name is. But why does it sound so chilling? Shen An knew it was useless to reason, so he closed his eyes and let Yu Qi vent on his body. Only she knew how fragmented she was that day. End of this chapter.